Time now for a look at the day's top business news. And for that, France 24 business journalist Brian Quinn joins us from his home. Hello there, Brian.
Hey, Charlie.
We've been covering the news that AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine is likely going to see a new trial after some irregularities in its first one. How is that being reflected in the markets?
Well, Charlie, shares in AstraZeneca actually finished the day in positive territory, contrary to what one might expect. They gained just over 0.25% in London on Friday. Now, that botched phase 3 study does have some analysts worried about regulatory approval, particularly in the US and the EU. The company, though, is standing by its vaccine, as is the UK government. Now, the first trial saw a large number of participants, as we heard, accidentally given half doses for the first of 2 shots. Obviously, a major screw-up from the trial's perspective, not necessarily one that calls into question the potency of the vaccine, though. In fact, it could be the opposite. You add to that the fact that AstraZeneca's formula, probably the cheapest and easiest to transport of the 3 Western vaccines in development so far. And we see why investors aren't rushing out to ditch their shares just yet. Now, on the wider markets, European indexes all closed slightly higher as vaccination plans worldwide get firmed up, especially as Donald Trump also seems more and more likely to actually respect the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. And in fact, despite the fact that both the U.S. and Europe are still in the depths of coronavirus outbreaks, global stock indexes are actually having one of their best months ever, and that is thanks in large part to vaccine hopes like from AstraZeneca. Bank of America says around $89 billion has been poured into equity funds during November. That's a record. The Dow Jones is up 13% for the month. The S&P and the NASDAQ are each up around 11%. The S&P just set a new record tonight. That's all during November. So investors are definitely looking at the light at the end of the tunnel and continuing to buy in for the moment.
Brian, today is Black Friday. It's the day after the American Thanksgiving holiday, and typically it signifies the biggest retail shopping day of the year. How is it looking in this very different 2020?
Very different indeed, Charlie, you would have to say. The pandemic really has changed the face of retail in 2020, and Black Friday is just a continuing example. In the U.S., we're seeing reports of nearly empty malls, big box stores with more employees than customers. For those that do show up, Walmart has created one-way only lanes through their stores. Best Buy, meanwhile, has been pushing hard for customers to take advantage of curbside pickup. Now, the real difference, though, is that in 2020, retailers have been launching their holiday promotions ever earlier, as early as October for a lot of them, also leaning even harder than ever on e-commerce. This should be the first ever Black Friday that sees more customers shop online than in person, around 61% online versus 54% in person. American shoppers are expected to spend around $10 billion online today. That's 39% more than last year. Cyber Monday, after the weekend, expected to bring in around $12.7 billion. That's a 35% gain over 2019. Now, here in France, where Black Friday has been around for a few years, the lockdown that we're under right now until tomorrow has led the retail sector to delay its own Black Friday promotions by a week until December 4th. It's still big business here in France. It brought in about 6 billion euros in the country last year. 5 billion of that in person, 1 billion via e-commerce, so a bit of a reversal of the American trend. French retailers, though, definitely have more on their minds than promotions. As we heard, non-essential shops getting ready to reopen tomorrow after weeks of closure. So everyone's going to be keeping a very close eye on retail figures coming out of France during this coming week.
That's right, Brian. Even though Thanksgiving doesn't exist here in France, Black Friday does, and that's because of Amazon, which brought I guess you could call it a holiday to France. But Amazon now is facing an international labor strike.
Indeed, not much of a holiday for Amazon workers. Warehouse workers across several countries went on strike today to demand better working conditions. They also want the company to respect the rights of workers to unionize and to stop avoiding taxes. They want Amazon to commit to higher environmental standards too. Organizers have dubbed this campaign "Make Amazon Pay" with a hashtag, of course. Actions took place today in South America, the U.S., the U.K., here in France too. The biggest, though, was probably in Germany, where around 3,000 Amazon workers walked off the job at 6 facilities. Amazon, for its part, says it has a strong track record supporting employees, safe working conditions, competitive wages. It says it's aiming for net zero emissions by 2040. It says it pays billions in taxes. It's also been offering holiday bonuses to its frontline workers in a bid to sort of head off this strike movement. A German union, though, a very prominent one, says Amazon is not respecting some of the health protection measures, in that country. It says that Amazon is refusing to recognize regional collective labor agreements, so a bit of difference of opinion there. Recent reports in the U.S. actually have suggested that the company is keeping very close tabs on its workers in order to head off any union organizing, so that's also troubling. Now, the Make Amazon Pay campaign says they're targeting Amazon in part because it's done so well during this pandemic. Amazon profits are up 53% over last year. Amazon workers, meanwhile, have seen just a 6% bump in hourly pay since March. We've got Amazon's chief, Jeff Bezos, his net worth now north of $180 billion. Those holiday bonuses for the frontline workers top out at around $300 there. So it's a bit of troubling math for the workers who are trying to make some change there at Amazon.
Brian Quinn from our business desk, thank you so much for that update.